Sick. Awesome. And yeah, good to see a couple new faces, a lot of returning faces on here. Josh, I will continue to let people in as they come in, but today's speaker is Josh Cons. One, he's a member of Thrive, which is cool. He was like basically in our first 100. I think Josh and I like got connected maybe in like February, early March at like the absolute latest, and it's been a really big supporter of everything we're doing. So appreciate that. He is the founder and is bootstrapping a company called Notice Media. There's parentheses around the end, like Notice Me. Great branding, great messaging, but alludes to what he does, obviously. He's going to be talking about how to really position yourself and sell the right way on LinkedIn. His media agency is basically like a ghostwriting agency, and then Josh is involved in a lot of like newsletter and other media kind of ad hoc agencies. So I'm going to turn things over to him and let him run the show. Josh, I'll let people in as they come in, but over to you, man.
Awesome. First, I want to thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for showing the support. Thrive is unbelievable. First, thank you to Eric. The guy's the man, one of the biggest hustlers I know, legend. The goal of this is to not bore you guys. To me, success here is based on two things. If I could walk away, not seeing too many bored faces, check mark. And if I could also walk away and all you guys could walk away saying you got some form of value from this meet, this call, for me, another check mark. So those are my two main components here that I want to focus on. So again, I'll kind of ease into what I do. In short, I run Notice Media, which is a company. We help founders, executives get noticed, or beyond noticed, as we like to say. And we help founders, executives with three primary goals. Number one, attract investors, whether you're a fund manager, whether you're a startup, whatever it may be. Number two is we help them attract enterprise or B2B size partnerships. And number three is high ticket clients. For example, agency owners and so on and so forth. All right. So those are three primary buckets. And obviously how you do that is through positioning, through content. That's pretty much what we're going to run through. So Eric and I, right before we hopped on this call, we were kind of just jamming on what I do. And I said, you know what? The founders that we work with, they are the most polished, well-articulate people that I know. And they happen to be unbelievable writers, but there's one problem, right? And before I get into the problem, I just want to say that I would love to make this as interactive as possible. So we're going to kind of do like a live Q&A / open floor, maybe about 7 to 10 minutes in. So before I start talking and rambling, I just wanted to say that. But the main problem is, again, most of the founders that we work with are the most well-articulate people. They're the most tremendous writers I know. So why do they choose to work with us? Very simply. Are any of you guys from Chicago? Anyone from Chicago here? Anyways, as the great Kanye West says, closed mouths don't get fed, right? It's one of those things where you can interpret it as it goes, but I guess given what we do and the media that we're in, closed mouths don't get fed. And I'll kind of explain what that means, how that's relevant to us, how that's relevant to this call. But I want that to be the theme here. The fact that if you have a closed mouth, you just can't get fed. Think about it that way. About 2 years ago, I was in my college dorm. The legs feed, that's exactly what it is. About 2 years ago, I was scrolling in my college dorm. I was about 20 at the time, 19, 20 at the time, scrolling on LinkedIn. And if you ask me what I was doing on LinkedIn when I was 19 or 20, I actually don't know. Probably had too much TikTok for that day. Anyways, was scrolling on LinkedIn. And I come across this post that this founder posted. It was a post that literally said, congrats on our startup for hitting 50,000 users. And I clicked to see who the name was. And it was a guy who literally lives down the street from me. Literally. He went to school with my sister. I've known him, his family, they're in our community. And I had no clue that he was building this seemingly successful startup up until I saw a simple LinkedIn post. It was one line that says, congrats on our startup for hitting 50,000 users. I instantly reached out to him, being the startup nerd that I am. And I said, dude, shame on you. You know I'm obsessed with startups. You live 2 minutes from me. Why have I never heard about what you and your 3 other brothers are building, right? 4 brother co-founders. You rarely see that. Within 3 to 4 weeks, we ended up putting together a 7-figure group to invest in that startup. We led their seed round. We actually closed the Series A about a week or 2 weeks ago. And what that taught me was that closed mouths don't get fed. There was no science to it. He literally just posted a post that says, congrats on our startup for hitting 50,000 users. Because of that, I then saw the post, reached out to him, came to a deal, and then it was kind of the snowball effect from there. And it happens to be that I had the light bulb moment. If they could get an investment from a random LinkedIn post, I wonder what I get if I start posting every day. So there I was, majoring in accounting. I was going to graduate 6 months from that point. I was going to go to KPMG. Shouldn't have name dropped them, but there it is. Work as a entry-level accountant, fresh out of university, 20 years old. And the day after I graduated, I said, you know what? Scratch all that. Scratch these plans. I'm not going to be an accountant. I'm not going to work KPMG. Not going to work at a startup. I'm going all in on LinkedIn ghostwriting because I saw the value firsthand, and that's pretty much how I got started. And because of that, it's kind of been a train and a series of that recurring theme of closed mouths don't get fed. Because of the fact that that founder opened up their mouth, they got fed. And then because of that, I started opening my mouth, and then I got fed. And then because of that, I started opening other founders' mouths, and then they got fed. And because of that, I was able to open more founders' mouths and feed them. And then because of that, because I was opening my mouth online, I was able to get fed through teammates joining our team. And then we kind of expanded through there. So on that recurring theme of closed mouths don't get fed. Again, most of you guys here are probably very well articulate people. You guys all run teams. You guys all have your own companies, and you guys are all bootstrappers, which is tremendous. That we're pretty much in the same shoes. But the thing is, a lot of founders have a hard time getting themselves to open up their mouths, which again seems to be the hardest task. It's not the writing, it's not coming up with the ideas. It's pretty much opening your mouth and getting over that hump of really opening your mouth and sharing your thoughts online. And my goal of this call is to pretty much help you ease all that stress and give you a blueprint as to how you can open up your mouth effectively, and how could you position yourself before you open up your mouth, so that once you start opening up your mouth, you'll be funneled and positioned in a way that'll pretty much drive you the same success as we see for our clients. So those are the 2 points there. I'm going to continue on my rant, giving a little more value. And then what I'd like to do is kind of stop talking, close my mouth for a little bit, open up the floor to a very open floor Q&A. And then maybe a few of you guys will, one by one, maybe 2 or 3, 4 people, we'll see how it goes. Will tell me A, your ICP, B, your goals for your business. And then on the spot in 30 seconds, we'll come up with a whole positioning plan, content pillars, strategy as to how you could leverage LinkedIn, snap of a finger starting tomorrow. As simple as that. So I guess I'll jump right into it. Okay, that's good. I'll jump right into it and say like this. Your success on LinkedIn is based on 4 primary components. Number 1, profile positioning. I'll get deeper into that. Number 2, content, meaning when to post, what to post, best practices, pillars. All that's important. Number 3 and number 4 kind of coincide is your community building, commenting efforts and outreach efforts, and also the best practices for that. How to leave a good comment, how to leave a good message. When you're doing outbound, what should the intention be? What should the message look like? Right? So all those 4 things make up for your 100% success on LinkedIn. And very quickly, I'll just jump right into more intricacies and details about those 4 points. And also just important to note that I do have a document that I'll send out to everyone, just a free resource here about all this in depth with examples and visuals that you guys will be able to see, maybe if the attention span isn't that strong. But again, on that note, I'll try to bang it out as quick as possible. So number 1, profile positioning. What I mean by that is the best profile is the one that mirrors exactly what you do and who you do it for. More specifically, we literally get down to the details, nitty gritty, from your banner design to your headline to your featured section, about section, skill section, and experiences. The parts where most people overlook, we tend to put the most focus on those parts. And let me explain what that means. In short, you should look at your profile to follow the 6-year-old test, as I like to call it. If I could get my phone and say, hey, hey, 6-year-old niece or nephew that I have, tell me what Eric does in 10 seconds or less. If my 6-year-old niece or nephew is able to tell me exactly what Eric does and who he does it for, check mark, you did something right. Otherwise, we have to revise that. No chance they know. Eric, we got some work to do. We'll handle that. We'll handle that off the records here, off camera. But more specifically, what that means is for your banner design, right? What you want to do is, I see a lot of people do it different ways, and there's no one way does it all. You should definitely have the logo or your branding, your colors, whatever it may be. And bonus if you could have like a 5 to 8 word catch line, right? That way it'll catch people in the eyes and it'll captivate them to read onto your headline. What we like to do is to include your position at company name and then a line break, and then it could be your company's tagline. Again, another 5 to 8 words to what you do. A recent hack that I found is that a lot of VCs, I mean, I guess it's not really applicable for this chat, but if you guys happen to maybe want to start fundraising, a lot of VCs, as I heard from a VC themselves, scrape LinkedIn profiles based on the keyword building. So that's just a thing to note, to include building if you foresee fundraising in the future. Next is your featured section. A lot of people neglect this. Not all people pay attention to this. And in your featured section, what I like to do is include a free resource. And the free resource should be valuable for every single person who fits your ICP. So for example, for us, what this free resource includes in my profile, you guys could actually check it out, is a 20-page PDF document that highlights exactly what I'm talking about on this call. But the cool thing about this is that once someone downloads our free resource, it'll funnel them over to our newsletter through an automation that we collect their email, we send it over to our newsletter to kind of keep the funnel moving, right? So that way, that's a prime time spot to capture those high intent emails and people who are actually interested in what you do. Next is your about section. So in most cases, no one gives a crap about you. You know, it's a stab to the heart. It's an ego thing that we all got to get over. I had to learn this the hard way, but no one gives a crap about no one cares when I graduated, what I graduated, and what I studied in university. You pretty much care about what I could do for you. So very simply, what I would advise and what I would suggest is, you know, you're here because you're a founder executive. You're interested in attracting investors, attracting B2B and enterprise partnerships and high ticket clients. Very simply. And then how do we do that? Positioning, strategy, content. We work with CEOs, investors, operators, sales leaders, and the like. Straight up. If you're interested, hit me. Right? So your about section should really be about them, about your ICP, less about yourself, which is something that not a lot of people realize and focus. Right? And then next, your skills should be 5 to 7 skills, very pertinent to what you do and who you do it for, right? It's not like a resume where you dump 50 skills, because at the end of the day, people want to know, again, what you do and what you could do for them, which again is a stab to the heart. It is. It really is. But that's the reality of it. People want to come on your profile and understand exactly what you do and who you do it for with a snap of a finger in 10 seconds. Should be as easy as a 6-year-old. And that pretty much makes the whole component number 1, profile optimization, and how you could position yourself to then focus on content, right? Because at the end of the day, you're posting content that'll hopefully funnel people over to your profile. Once they land on your profile, you want them, you know, to have no worries. You want them to have no stress in identifying what you do and if you could do it for them. So that's step number 1 out of 4. I'll stop talking for 30 seconds to see if there are any questions on what I just said. And if not, means maybe I did something right or maybe I did something really wrong. But anyways, I'll see if there are any questions. If not, I could jump over to point number 2, which is content, best practices, pillars, and so on and so forth. Awesome. So I see there's a question over here. Yes, great question. Should the focus be on company page or on business page? And I'll tell you the reality and my personal strategy that we advise for our clients. If your personal page has 1,000 followers and your company page has the same exact 1,000 followers, if you post the same text in the same post word for word on your company page with the same 1,000 followers than on your personal page, this is what it will look like, more or less. Your personal page will get about 1,000 impressions, 1,000 views, whereas your company page will get maybe 200 impressions and views. Don't know why. That's just the reality of it. With that being said, the best thing to do is put more emphasis and focus on your personal page, but you don't want to neglect and leave your company page totally empty. What I would suggest is post every day on your personal page, but keep building that company page, keep using up those monthly invites. And then what you're going to do is every time you post on your personal page, later that day or the next day, you're going to repost it from your company page. So that way your company page is still, still has some activity. It'll show that you got a repost on your personal post, and it'll also drive a second round of engagement for people who see the repost over there. So again, the focus should be mostly on the personal page, but you don't want to leave that company page empty. Someone views your company page, they want to see that you're active in real time. And even the more so, you're going to funnel people from your company page over to your personal page. Really great question. So yeah, the focus should definitely be on the personal. Let me see. Exactly. That's exactly what I see. Most activity on personal, but you definitely don't want to leave that company page empty. So I guess from here I'll move on to point number two, and I'll try to be a little more
Can I ask one question, Josh?
100%.
If you're going through your profile again, or if you're like pulling specific content, would it be possible for you to like screen share your own LinkedIn profile just so people can like get a visual as you're like walking through it?
100%. I'm gonna pull
Or
that
you
up.
could put Eric's up and put him on the hot seat.
Should I roast him?
I say yes.
See, I didn't get to give Josh like the download 5 minutes before of like don't take questions from Jerry Gadori. So sorry.
Dang.
That's on you.
Look, for argument's sake, I'm gonna share mine just to kind of run through. And if with Eric's permission, or really anyone who's down for it, I'm willing to respectfully put people in the hot seat, and we could do kind of like an in-person 30-second. Again,
You
I
can put me on the hot seat. It's all good.
I wanted this to be fun and interactive. So if that'll accomplish the goal, Eric, I'm sorry, but it's not your lucky day. Yeah, Max. Okay, I'm pulling up my profile right now. Let me know when you guys see my screen over here. We're good? Sick. All right. So I'll give the quick run through. Over here, I experimented a lot. I used to have a visual with my little catchphrase. It's now a dark mode visual over here. Notice Media, very clear. And here is my headline. Founder at Notice Media. So position at company name. Here's my little line break or my emoji. 5 to 8 words, ROI focused ghostwriting for founders and executives. Very straight to the point. I explain what I do and who I do it for by the look of my profile. Next, in my about section, you'll see over here that it's very concise to the point. It's easy on your eyes. You're able to see what I do and who I do it for in greater depth. Very simple. Next, in my featured section, over here, let me spoil it for you guys. If you guys download this resource, you guys will be signed up for my newsletter, like disclaimer, but you guys will love it. And if you don't, still stay subscribed, okay? And here's a guide to here's a link over to Gumroad with a Zapier automation that when someone downloads it, it'll take that email, sign them up for my newsletter. Next is my experiences. You'll see everything here is very concise and straight to the point. You'll never see more than 2 or 3 lines. And that's the way it should be. You don't want to bore people out. People aren't reading your profile, to read a book. They're here to see exactly what you do. And then lastly, over here, I have 4 skills, and I like to play around a little bit. My skills include leadership, whatever that means. I just kept it because I have a lot of endorsements. So that looks good. Writing, as it should be. Entrepreneurship and ping pong. I challenge any of you guys to a ping pong match. And if you guys beat me, I'll give 6 months worth of ghostwriting for free. So Eric, next time, we make a Thrive event, let's please make sure there's a ping pong table, and I challenge anyone to a ping pong match. But this is pretty much in real time what the profile, I guess, should or shouldn't look like, at the same time recognizing that I'm constantly improving. For our founders, what I do is every Friday I take a half hour for every single founder to look through their profile to see if we could optimize and position it a little bit better for their current goals. That literally means once a week, I take a half hour to look at their profiles and review it and do a full audit and optimization. Perfect. I'll jump right into the content over here right now, the content pillars. So there's a few things to keep in mind, and I'll kind of bang them all out over here quickly. And this is point 2 out of 3/4 of your whole success on LinkedIn. So a couple questions that people ask. Number 1, what does a good piece of content look like? Very simply, it's the art of captivating and retaining attention. Hook, tease, value, and call to action. What you also want to include and keep in mind here is that you want it to be skimmable, right? For me personally, I understand that LinkedIn writing, and this is actually an argument I got in with one of our clients when we first started. They're like, Josh, this is not proper English, right? I cannot submit this to my university teacher. They'll fail me on the spot. And I said, client, you're abso-freaking-lutely right. Do not show this to your English teacher, because what's good for LinkedIn is it's the art of captivation, right? It's the art of captivating and the art of retaining and captivating and grabbing attention from people. Chances are from your university papers, you're not going to submit that to a movie scene, right? That's going to be thrown out in the garbage, right? But if you want a proper movie script, if you ever look at a movie script, you'll notice that it's not proper English. Sentences start with and there's a lot more to it. So point number 1, it should be captivating with a hook, followed by a tease with some value and call to action. Number 2, Well, Josh, that makes a lot of sense. But how long should my posts be? Right? Should it be 5 words? I see five words posts that do really well. But at the same time, I see long form content, maybe about 1,000 words. I also perform kick ass. Where's the balance? And let me tell you something. My best performing post is one that's just 1 word. My best performing post in terms of leads and getting clients is simply a 1 word post that said start. I guess that's all people needed to see that day. But I posted something that literally just said the word start with a period. I think that got me about 3 leads instantly. Another part is memes really work. My highest performing post, I think got about 1,000 likes, is a meme, right? So definitely throw that into the mix. I know some of you guys are kind of like smirking and kind of nodding, but memes work. And at the same time, you don't want to neglect your story. So your story could be a longer form post. What I'm getting at here is that there's no blueprint. What I'll tell Jerry is that, Jerry, what works for you will definitely not work for me. What works for me will definitely not work for Eric, right? What works for Max will not work for Eric as well. What I'm saying here is that there's no blueprint. And with our clients, what we like to do is we literally tell them, client, we're taking the first month and a half, which is about 50 LinkedIn posts every single day, to A/B test to see what works and what doesn't. We're throwing a bunch of shit at the wall and seeing what sticks pretty much, right? Because at the same time, we have all these best practices. We kind of know what works and what doesn't and how to reverse engineer and how to engineer, our clients' minds to get them to convert. But at the end of the day, we're all guessing and checking. And when we see something that works, when we identify a pattern, we're tripling down on that. We're going all in. We're going super heavy. So that being said, I encourage all of you guys to keep that format of, keeping that in mind. I'm writing to get attention, keeping in mind whose attention do I want to grab? How do I want to grab that? And what do I want to give off? What tone, what voice, what energy, right? So all that is important, and you kind of want to keep that consistent, right? So on the topic of pillars, we kind of want to establish the pillars to focus on a few things. And what I mean by pillars is very simply, you want to build rapport with yourself, right? You want to talk about yourself. You want to talk about your business, and you want to talk about your industry. That's going to give people a full 360. I see a lot of founders doing these faults that they only talk about themselves, wrong. That they only talk about their business, wrong. Or that they only talk about their industry, also wrong. What you want to do is you want to get people, you want to allow people and enable them to get proximity to your mind. How you do that is, for example, assuming you're posting 5 times a week, right? So post number 1 could be talking about your personal story, taking that timeline of your professional career and stretching it back as far along as relevant, and just building rapport as to what led you to what you're doing today. That could be pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is why you and your team are the best at what you do. And what could be incorporated under that pillar is case studies, stories of when you messed up, but you kind of fixed it, right? Stories where you messed up and there's no fixing it, and you're just telling the story of how you messed up and you're accepting that, right? So all that has to do with, with building that authentic connection with your audience. Pillar number 3 could be talking about a hot take in your industry. I'm a massive hot take guy. I love hot takes. I'm a big believer that the further you attract, the harder you attract, the harder you repel, and vice versa. Every single person here has a hot take about their industry. 100% of people here. Jerry, I call on you and I say, what's the hot take about your industry? I bet you have something to say. Similarly, with Sam, I bet you do as well, right? A lot of people don't want to say it, and some takes are meant to be kept in your back pocket. But at the same time, I'm a strong believer that the harder you could attract, the harder you repel, and that's healthy. Right? At the end of the day, if you're just talking generic fluff, who wants to listen to that? Right? What type of cult-like audience is that? And that's really the goal of what we're doing. We want to build you a cult-like die-hard audience, right? And let me just say another analogy on this point. What LinkedIn does is it builds trust at scale. And let me explain a little bit further about what that means. What is marketing in general? Marketing is taking your little airplane and finding a runway, finding an airport that's best suited for your airplane to take off from. Some runways are a little too long, some are too short, some are too wide, some are too narrow. But marketing is taking your airplane, finding someone else's runway, and paying them to use it, renting that runway. What you're doing is you're building your own runway, right? That way, when you take off, when you have one business, and in time, once your runway is smoothed out and nice and concrete finish, you're able to take it off. And who's to say that you can't take a second and a third and a fourth runway? That's the beauty of building trust at scale, building your runway on LinkedIn. Your runway is unique to you and unique to your airplanes that you take off from. So I'll kind of stop talking from there because I'm just throwing a bunch of points right now as to content, and I'll open the floor to see if there are any questions about content and about any material or information that I just said over there. I said there are some new chats, so let me just take a look to see if those chats are questions or more so of just roasting Eric.
A lot of that in Thrive these days.
And if there are no
All part of my
questions,
coup.
awesome. And if there are no questions, I'll put point 3 and 4, which is pretty much community building, which to me is the most important part of LinkedIn. I'll aggregate them and I'll just relay those messages over there. But perfect. I see we got a question. Jeff, thank you. Question about monetizing your runway and when. Awesome question. So look at it like an X and Y axis and chart. X being the time it takes, the time you're spending providing free value for people without asking for anything in return. And on the Y axis, it's the trust that you've accumulated, that you built with your growing network. So if you look at it like that, you start off over here. You're literally at ground zero. No one starts off on the Y axis higher up than the other person, right? Justin Welsh, one of the biggest accounts, one of the most well-known people. I'm sure most of you guys know him. He started off at zero the same way I did, the same way all of you guys did. But the longer you spend providing free value for people without asking anything in return, and it's the same with personal relationships, the longer you take to just provide genuine value, the higher the trust becomes. And the more you wait, I like to see it as a gradual increase. You never want the increase to be like this, right? And it never is like this. It's usually just like this, kind of like consistent, right? So at what point, I would say, look, when we're starting off with a founder who has zero posts up on LinkedIn, we started working with the founder, super niche. And this is a story that I want to save for later and tell, which is one of our best client success stories. And again, I'll give a few of those, a quick 30 seconds for a few of those a little later on. But he literally didn't have a profile picture. He didn't even, his company didn't even have a page. He's been working this in 2 companies for 30 years each that he founded. They each have a few hundred employees. Didn't even have a company page, didn't even have a profile picture. And what we did was, from the beginning, we jumped right into there. We started telling his stories. We started sharing his philosophies, his lessons in business. And the way it first started out is 1 out of every 5 posts would be talking about what he does a little bit. We wouldn't even sell. We'd maybe plug it in the PS section on the footer of a post, maybe. And then in the 4th week, we'd start plugging it twice a week. And then now 4 of 5 posts are really just talking about what he does, with the PS plugging what he does and who he does it for. So it's kind of the gradual increase. And, you're not going to spend 8 months not talking about what you do, because at the same time, you don't want to become a no one. You don't want to be recognized as that guy who just does nothing and just posts all day on LinkedIn, right? So it's kind of finding that gradual increase and just weaving it into your strategy and just increasing it over time. I hope that answered the question. And let me move on to the second. Mary, thank you. A/B testing to help your marketing across other channels or positioning. So when it comes to other channels, I call social media distribution channels. I don't refer social media as social media. I call it your distribution platform. And I say like this, very simply, I meet with founders all day, every day. And the first thing I like to identify is which distribution platform is best suited for their business and for their goals. So on one hand, in general, B2B, LinkedIn. 5, 6, 7+ figure deals, LinkedIn. High ticket clients, LinkedIn. Done. That's where it is, straight up. At the same time, what you post on LinkedIn could likely be cross-pollinated and posted over to X. So keep that in mind. On the other hand, if you're D2C, like if you're a chocolate bar company and you need to get eyeballs, or if you're a SaaS subscription, you're probably your best bet is probably trying to go viral on D2C means of social media or distribution platforms. Meaning, if your average ticket size is anything less than 3 figures, so anything less than $100, I suggest you bust your chops and just trying to go viral by posting videos and try to ride the algorithm wave. And what I mean by that is post on TikTok, which could also be posted on YouTube Shorts, which could also be posted on Instagram, and trying to cross-pollinate there. But at the same time, we do work with D2C founders, but their goals aren't to become viral and to just get sales. Their goals are to raise capital. So if that's your goal, you're likely not going to, spend your time most efficiently raising capital on TikTok. Whereas if you start posting on LinkedIn, you'll kind of build that rapport with investors. And I think putting the emphasis there on a B2B platform to connect with investors would be the best bet. So A and B testing, I like to spend at least a month and a half, which is 50 LinkedIn posts that are posted, doing it right, meaning engaging every day, commenting, outreach, all that good stuff for 50 posts, right? For a month and a half, minimum. And based on that, you're able to kind of draw a storyline. Can you quantify trust, impressions, comments, and likes? Any of those more valuable than the other? I have a great story on this. So we were working with this founder who does merchandise for startup and pretty much promotional merchandise that they do for startups to Fortune 100s, right? So his biggest objection was, Josh, my business is a handshake business. I didn't even have a website. All I would do is go to 5 conferences a year, shake hands with a dozen people, and those are 5 to 6 to 7 figure deals a year. And we've been doing that for 25 years. How's LinkedIn going to help me? I told him, you're building trust at scale. You don't think that by sharing those 25 years of experiences and stories, you'd be able to kind of connect with people you've never even met in your life? And he says, you know what? Let's give it a try. He was probably the most skeptical founder I've ever met. And I'm getting to the question over here. About 2 months in, when we already landed him 5, 6 figure deals, he once sends me a screenshot. The screenshot had about 3 likes from one of his posts that he posted the day before. And I thought he was going to roast me. I thought he was going to be like, Josh, this post got 3 likes. Like, what's going on here? Like, we need to regroup. In reality, when I actually clicked on the message, aside from just seeing the preview, yes, the post did have 3 likes, but 2 of the 3 likes were from CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies on his quote-unquote hit list. So for me, our last metric is likes, comments, engagement. That'll come with it. Some of our clients will get them 1,000 likes. Like, doing what we do, we're able to engineer a perfect viral post, but I can't promise real tangible ROI, which leads me to our main KPIs for Notice Media. Our main KPI is number 1, ROI. We only work with you if you have one of those 3 goals, or 2, or even 3 of them. Because at the end of the day, if you were to tell us, Josh, my goal is to simply become an influencer, better luck. You're probably better off going to dance on TikTok, to be honest with you. Go dance on TikTok. You'll build your cult-like following. You'll get your likes, your comments. You'll be roasted in group chats, and you'll have no money to back the claims of your friends saying you're a loser. But if you want to see tangible ROI, that's what we help you out with. Next is our ability to chameleonize ourselves in your tone and your voice. Our goal, our KPI number 2 is how well we're able to replicate your tone and your voice and your energy. We have a whole process as to how we do that, right? So our goal is for you, to come back home from a long day at work. Your post goes up on LinkedIn, your spouse, your significant other, your family members, whoever it may be, someone super close to you says, hey, I really saw your LinkedIn post. This looks really great. Like, really cool to see you step up and start that initiative that you were talking about. And then you just be like, yeah, that's me. That's totally me. That's not, a full team ghostwriting my content for me. Like, yeah, that, the goal is that someone so close to you wouldn't be able to identify that, right? So those are our 2 main KPIs. And I hope that answered your question. Likes, comments, engagement, shares, all means nothing to me. If you're interested in that, join an engagement pod, get a couple 100 likes, your dopamine will spike, and I could promise nothing from it. Otherwise, if you're interested in making some cash, then we can maybe help out. No promises. But if we have a conversation and kind of flesh that out, then we're likely to kind of give you a response to see how confident we are in our ability to achieve that. Next, what's more effective from an outreach perspective? A LinkedIn post or LinkedIn article? LinkedIn post. Simply. I don't know. Evidently and admittedly, LinkedIn articles, I don't know much about. There's probably a reason why I don't know much about it. I pretty much spend 12 to 16 hours a day on LinkedIn. I don't see many articles. I see a lot more posts. The ratio is probably 1,000 or maybe 10,000 to 1. So with that being said, I would advise go all in on LinkedIn posts. And again, who's to say that a long form post doesn't perform well? If it's well thought out, well articulate, I promise you it will do really well. Next one, scheduling tools. So there are external scheduling tools, and a lot of our clients say, Josh, I'm a busy founder, busy executive. Like, unless I have a virtual assistant or an executive assistant that fully focuses on LinkedIn, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get these posts up on time. It's as simple as just scheduling it on LinkedIn. There's a little feature right next to the post. There's a little clock icon. Click on that, schedule the post. And right now I have about a month's worth, like literally 20 to 30 posts scheduled, that if I sleep in tomorrow past 8 a.m. Eastern, which I hope won't happen, and if it does hold me accountable, my post is still going live regardless, right? And on that point, the best practice before, during, and after your post goes live is what and I want to touch a little bit more on this in the community building part, but you want to engage before, during, and after you post. You want your name to pop up on the feed as much as possible. This, Josh liked this post, Josh commented, Josh reshared. That way your name will be shown 10 times before your post will go live. Right. So just checking out the comments.
Can I ask a question about your post scheduling, Josh?
Definitely.
When you say you have like 28 or 30 scheduled, like I fall into this trap where like 2 weeks in a row, because I do not schedule my posts admittedly. I'll fall into this trap where like I'll wake up early, I'll write them, I'll put out 5 days content, I'll do it again. And then like, let's say the next week I miss Monday or Tuesday, I will just miss like 9 days in a row. Like I'm just very like bad at being disciplined on it in that way. Do you find it best to like force yourself to sit down and say, okay, in these 3 hours, I'm going to like write a bunch of content? Do you find it best for like some of us to like, I don't know, hold a notebook next to us and like write down ideas as they come to us and come back to them? Like, what's your recommendation for like building a good block of content?
Spot on. Eric, I'm not sure if you heard, but there's like this really great team, people who could like who streamline this. They're called Notice Media. No, it's the same for a lot of our clients. Again, these are well articulated people. They just are like, Josh, my only issue is I can't find time. I just can't sit down. I'm busy with other things. This is for me not number one priority. Very simply, what I would do is Tuesday is my non-negotiable day. I could write content on a Thursday for the coming week. I could write. I could kind of like white paper it to kind of map out a bunch of ideas. I have a folder. I have screenshots on my phone of ideas. But Tuesday is my day where I literally sit down, because Tuesday I could be like, all right, well, Wednesday I feel it's a little close to the weekend. Thursday I'm already thinking about the next week. There's a lot of commitments. Tuesday for me is like the perfect day in the beginning of the week. Monday, it's like Monday is I am bombarded. Sorry. Tuesday by noon, I need to have the coming week's worth of content non-negotiable. And again, needless to say, for Wednesday I could write content for the week after that. But for me, I like to have that non-negotiable day. And at the same time, again, Notion, as I just saw in the comments, like Notion's a great place. It's where I organize a lot of my thoughts. I literally have like a spreadsheet. I have a folder in my phone, my notes. If you were to look on my phone, your head would spin in a circle, because pretty much there's a phenomenon on LinkedIn. Once you get in the LinkedIn world and social media and distribution world, you start to think of every single interaction that you have every single day as a LinkedIn post. Example, you're on a bus, you're listening to a podcast. I literally pull over on the highway sometimes because I think of something and I get an anecdote that will work best on LinkedIn. Similarly, I have a conversation with someone. I literally say, hold on, like, I know this is rude, but like, give me like 30 seconds just to jot this down. Can you repeat that? Right? I literally find myself doing that because my brain is calibrated in LinkedIn and in content. So that's a great question. I like to have like those non-negotiable days. Just trying to bang out the rest here. Yeah, so for comments, I'll just say one thing. I really dislike and I do not encourage third-party tools on LinkedIn. I've been banned once before. Schedulers, I would just use the LinkedIn scheduler. It works like a charm, and it's LinkedIn's, yours truly. So just makes a lot of sense. There are a bunch of tools for AI commenting, AI outreach. Stay away with a massive red sign and red flag. Please stay away. I've been banned. My teammates have been banned. And that's why what we do at Notice Media is all human led. You may say, Josh, why don't you automate these tedious activities of reaching out to people, even if it's from a list of people on Sales Navigator? All human led. We do not want to create any risks over here. Jerry, I like that question a lot. What time of day do we recommend posting? I like to think of everything we do on LinkedIn with like a logical perspective, right? So for me, most of the primary demographic of our founders are founders, executives in Eastern time zone in North America. So I like to think that the best time is 8 a.m. Eastern. Quite frankly, there's a most activity that I see from 8 a.m. Eastern to 10 a.m. Eastern. That's where the most activity is. And I feel like a lot of founders, all of our founders are posting at 8, 9 to 10. We like to space it out a little bit. But yeah, think about it this way. Where are most of your founders / ICP? Where are they? And then think about it that way. Like, look, if they're in the UK, you're not going to be posting at 2 a.m. their time. Similarly, you're not going to be posting at 2 p.m. their time because they're likely going to be finishing up their day or starting their day, right? Rather, think of it from that logical perspective of where are they? When are they likely going to be on their phones? And again, it's a whole game of A and B testing, right? So, and again, keep all those posting days and times consistent. Do not post at 2 p.m. one day on a Tuesday and 9 a.m. the next day on a Wednesday, skip a Thursday, post on Friday, and the next week kind of mix it around as well. You want to be predictable in your scheduling and unpredictable in your content. Meaning, how can you expect the same person to show up on your post at 9 a.m. when the next day you're posting at 3 p.m., then you skip 3 days? How can you expect the same people to show up? Whereas right now, I've been posting for the past 2 years at 8 a.m. Eastern, 6 days a week with a predictable schedule. People could kind of predict where I'm going to be and can never predict what I'm going to say, which kind of leads that question mark factor about what Josh is going to talk about. Not saying I'm a celebrity, not saying that people line up and refresh their feeds, which I hope some people do, but they probably don't. But be predictable in your scheduling and unpredictable in your content. Let's see. We just started drinking. Every time he mentions ocean, everyone has to take a drink. All right, I'll let Eric kick that off if he has a beer or something. Can't go, Justin. It's enough. Yeah, stay native, no AI on LinkedIn. Awesome. I wanna jump right into it because I'm most excited. I'll spoil the surprise. As I said, what I'd love to do is maybe we'll go one at a time, and if a few people want to be like, all right, roast my landing page, plus Josh, give me a whole custom LinkedIn roadmap and positioning game and create my pillars for me, come up with the actionable roadmap. I'll do that all in 30 seconds with a few people. I just want to bang out the value that I prepared for this call. And lastly is point 2 and 3, commenting and outreach efforts. So again, a lot of people think that LinkedIn is as easy as, putting your logo on your banner, smacking your what you do and who you do it for in your headline, and throwing up a couple posts here and there. Blake, welcome. Shout out to you. So what that includes.
Oh, man.
What's going on? Good to see you. So what's in that over there is you want to build a community of 2 buckets in your commenting and your outreach efforts. Given what I do, it wouldn't make sense if I just position my posts and build my community and only reach out to other writers, because why would I neglect my target audience, my target clients? But at the same time, why would I neglect other writers and just focus solely on founders? So I kind of weave that thought process into 2 buckets and into what I post and what I talk about and who I engage with. I'm not going to 100% put the focus on founders. I'm not going to put 100% focus on writers. More of a 50-50 split. Given that most of the time my priority is clients, the split may be 60-40, 70-30, right? So what that means and how to make that easy for you guys and actionable is, for example, if you're posting 5 times a week, 2 or 3 out of 5 posts are going to be focused on people, are going to be focused and targeted on catering to people who do similar work to you, for referrals, for networking, whatever it may be, handing off leads, whatever it is. But on the other hand, the other 2 or 3 posts out of the 5 are going to be targeted towards your target audience, because obviously that's the whole goal of this whole thing. And in terms of community building, how do you streamline that? So what that means for you is, and how to make this as efficient as possible, is literally just create a list. Create a list of 10 to 20 creators of all different sizes, from 1,000 followers to 100,000, of, again, both those buckets: people who do similar work to you and people who fit your ICP, your ideal customer profile, your target audience. All right. So, and what you're going to do is, given those 10 to 20 people on each who fit under each category, every day you're going to click on those people's profiles. You're going to see if they posted, and you're going to leave a value add comment. On that point, what is a good comment? What's a value add comment? To me, I cringe out of my skin, and quite frankly, I'll probably block people when I see that they're frequenters of commenting, "Great post, nicely said, well done." That's a garbage comment. That leaves no value. And what's the point in doing that? Just to check off a point that says you commented? Means nothing. How to actually derive value and get value. I've had comments go viral. I've had comments get over 100 likes. I've had leads come in through a comment. I have a call with someone today at 6:45 p.m. Eastern from someone who saw one of my comments that I left. And what's the secret sauce? Your comments should be a mini post. It should still follow the same hook, tease, value, and call to action format. A value add comment is not something that you just leave to check off, which may be counterintuitive to creating that whole list that I just spoke about. But again, the list doesn't mean that you're obliged to comment on all 10 to 20 of those people's posts every single day. It's a foundational point for you to not scramble, and every single day you're kind of thinking, whose post do I comment on? Oh, wait, I need to comment on that person's. No, you'll have a very organized list. And again, happens to be that if the person didn't leave a valuable post, or if you can't add any value, move on. No one's going to hurt you. All right. You actually did the right thing. Right. So with that being said, that should be, for me, the emphasis on community building and kind of following those 2 buckets of of who to engage with in terms of outreach, in terms of commenting, as well as, what to comment. And again, what frequency should you be commenting on? What we do for our clients, what I suggest is one comment a day isn't going to cut it. What a comment does, it leverage that person's network and their audience. I would advise 10 to 15 comments. And if you really want to go hard, then you could go 20 plus comments. But yes, it does take some time, and I definitely wouldn't neglect it. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much the 4 components that make up for your LinkedIn success. It's profile positioning, it's content, it's commenting, and it's outreach. And I'll just check because I see that there was a question over here that I'll get to. And again, I open the stage to any questions that anyone may have on those 4 points, on the 2 recent points that I mentioned. Other than that, we've been kind of doing Q&A async, which is really fun. And would love to maybe roast a couple pages and do like in real time, in 1 minute, create a whole actionable plan and come up with pillars for you and understand who you want to target and kind of create a whole blueprint as to how you could do it like right now. So LinkedIn Sales Nav, the way we like to utilize that, I'm just answering the question over here. LinkedIn Sales Nav, the best way to utilize it is if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, first of all, do not send messages, do not send connection requests via Sales Nav. Use Sales Navigator to prospect. Go on LinkedIn itself and send a personalized message on LinkedIn. Do not send it on Sales Nav because they may not land as efficiently as they do. It may be an in-mail, not efficient. The best utilization of LinkedIn Sales Navigator is to prospect and create all types of filters. And again, anyone who's interested, hit me up on LinkedIn. My name is Josh Cons on LinkedIn, and shoot me a message saying, hey, I was on Thrive's thing, and let's book 15 minutes to just see how we could utilize LinkedIn Sales Nav. And I'd be happy, free of charge, just doing this for the community to kind of map that all out over a 15-minute call and coffee. So I'll mention that there. Yes, for sure. I just see another question popped up. When are the best days and times to post on LinkedIn? So to go back to that question really short, I like to say that I spoke to founders who said, Josh, I want to post once a week. And I tell them, founder, you're silly. That's not going to thread the needle. What's that going to do for you? 1 post a week. The point of LinkedIn is kind of build rapport, right? You want to be seen. You want to be top of mind. You really think that in all of this noise, 1 post a week is going to thread the needle? Highly doubt it. What we like to do is we sometimes compromise, and we sometimes work on packages. Our regular package is 5 posts a week. Good luck trying to get your ICP to ignore you if you're posting 5 times a week. But we could sometimes go down to 3 posts a week, and I wouldn't go more than 6 or 7. I wouldn't go less than 3. And when are the best times to post? I like to think of it from a logical perspective. If your ICP is in Eastern time zone and they're founders, chances are you're not going to be posting at 11 p.m. Eastern, right? You're going to be posting at 8 a.m. maybe, and keep it on the same day and at the same time every single week. So even if you're posting 3 times a week, let it be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, to kind of keep that spacing, and do not alternate days and times. Keep it uniform. So I hope that was helpful. And getting to this question. All right, awesome. Jeff, we'll get right to that. Awesome. So before we kind of dive into everyone's individual profiles, wanted to see if there are any more questions at all. If not, we'll just get right into it. We could start with Jeff's. Thank you for being the first volunteer. I hope I'm not too rude.
Josh,
Yes.
can I interact? I'm going to ask a question because it'll be too long to type.
Sure.
Something that I've noticed, and I'm curious your perspective on this, is there's a lot of content generation that feels very salesy, and there are people that I've actually unfollowed because I'm just so sick of seeing, in essence, just ads, right? And it just becomes too much. So how do you balance? I get frequency and being in front of people, but I think that at some point you hit the opposite end of that, right? Where you're just annoying people and it's actually having a negative effect. How do you find that balance?
That's the perfect question, right? So what we like to do is we call it something like story selling, right? So story selling is the intersection between storytelling from a more broad perspective, and on the other end of the spectrum, selling, straight up. I do the same thing. I'm a very frequent, maybe if you guys couldn't tell, I'm very straight to the point. And if someone's kind of being fluffy, or on the other end of the spectrum, they're a hard sell, for me, similarly to all you guys, we're all founders. Time is valuable. You don't want to be reading that. You want to be reading with intent. You want to be reading with focus and with a goal. And how do you kind of find that medium? It really it differs from person to person, right? So if you were to tell me, Josh, my goal is I want to attract investors. for my startup. So then we would come up with pillars and we would indirectly hint it maybe in the comment section of your post. You would leave a comment on your own post, a more thought-provoking thought or comment or elaboration. You would maybe allude to it in the PS section of a post, right? So it doesn't pollute your post. You would maybe tell a story that kind of weaves it in there, right? The whole essence of good content on LinkedIn that converts is creating that sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, right? And in some posts, you may want to do it with intent, right? To kind of be so explicit about your offer and what you do. But another post, you kind of want to play the long game and you kind of say, it doesn't really make sense to weave in my offer into this thought particularly. I'll give you an example. We have these two co-founders that we're writing for. One of them is super salesy, super to the point, and the other one's like, Josh, that's not me. I only want to talk about my philosophies, my stories. And again, we started working for him. We've been doing it for 2 months, and we just met the other day, last Thursday. And he says, Josh, I feel like we're a little scattered. I feel like I'm telling too many stories. I feel like I'm sharing too many philosophies. I'm actually tying it down and funneling it. So what we did was on our Thursday's hour-long call, we reverse engineered. We said, all right, this makes a lot of sense. Remind me what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish? He says, my goal is this. And I said, all right, based on that, let's kind of reverse engineer as to how we do that through content, right? So let's one of your pillars, he's posting 3 times a week. So one of his pillars are sharing philosophies. He has a lot of these thoughts that come to his mind as a founder, and he loves philosophy. Boom. We're going to kind of weave in what that looks like. Life as a founder to your philosophies, whatever it may be, right? What one of his philosophies he likes to talk about is the fact that it's never actually him. He's very anti-ego, which is a great feature in a founder. A great trait. He's very much of the belief that it's always the actions that I do that I contribute my success to. It's not the fact that I'm better than you because I ran a marathon. It's the fact that I ran a marathon, I'm able to kind of do that. I have these credentials because I ran the marathon. It's not the fact that I'm so great that I ran a marathon that makes me better than you, right? So it's very because of the action. There's a phenomenon that I don't know the exact word, and my apologies, but he's very on that belief, and we're kind of taking that philosophy that he lives and dies by and weaves that into his everyday life and kind of builds that rapport with his growing audience to kind of what that means for him, to kind of build proximity to his brain and let his audience understand how he thinks. That way will indirectly sell his audience through resonating with the content that we write for him. So it's very indirect in a lot of points, but again, it's that finding that perfect balance, just as you said, Steph, of indirectly building rapport and selling, not doing it too directly, but at the same time, not, entertaining all the fluff, quote unquote. So I hope that was helpful. Awesome. All right. Should we jump right into the LinkedIn stuff?
Yeah, do it. All
right, Jeff, just confirming that you're cool with taking the seat. First, what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go over everything from the banner design to the headline to the featured section, about section. Just gonna kind of riff off what I would do if I were, to formally advise, and tweak your profile. We'll establish those pillars, who you do it for and what you do. But I guess it would make the most sense if you could just, as I pull it up on my LinkedIn in the background before I share my screen, if you could just tell me who your ICP is, who's your target audience, who do you want to talk to, who do you want to listen to what you talk about, and B, what are your goals? What are your business goals in this quarter and then the next? What do you want to accomplish? And tell me more about your service that you provide or your business.
Yeah, so this is brand new. I was a CEO of a $20 million company with an exit. So
Nice.
I'm looking to basically provide consultancy. Some of the operational things that I was able to do have to do with Salesforce, NetSuite programming, but I've run sales teams, operations, and it's basically how do I package that in a consultancy and then also provide between myself and others, I don't want to say administrative, but it's the programming part. It's the build out of Salesforce, NetSuite, those types of things.
Got you 100%. So,
and it's in the fitness industry, and there's a lot of, low barrier to entry with service techs and sales reps, and then dealers and manufacturers. So there's probably 3 to 4 different layers of customers there.
Got you. Just as I take note, can you please remind me who exactly you provide? What size are these companies of the people that
B2B. So it's all commercial grade. Could be gyms, apartments, condos, your police, your fire, dues paying and non-dues paying. Nothing, nothing really residential. I mean, I could advise on businesses residentially, but I'm more focused on the B2B piece.
Got you. Spot on. All right. I think I found your profile. Let me share my screen. Let me know if this is the right one. And then from there, we'll dive right into it. Let me know you see my screen. Let me know if this is the right one.
That's it.
Awesome. Very cool. So look, I really like two things. Or one thing I'll say, the fact that we're in similar spaces. We're B2B, and you're a service provider at the end of the day. And you have the leg up, you have the advantage over someone like myself because you've been there, done that. You've done it. You have the stories to back it. And for me, the number one thing, like the target in my head is, hey, you have the stories. You've done it successfully. You've exited. You live the dream. Now more people need to hear about it. You need to create a greater sense of FOMO. And at the end of the day, how can someone trust you if they don't know pretty much what you do? Your mouth has to be wide, your mouth has to be wide open right now, shouting and screaming from the rooftops. And again, it's just a matter of positioning that in a way that sounds like you, Jeff. And you're not boasting, you're not showing off, you're more of just educationally and thoughtfully telling what you do and expressing and explaining what you could do for other people, given the previous work that you've done and the work that you currently do right now. Right. So starting from the top over here, banner design, right? So given what you do, right, I say that you should kind of scrap this. Is this cursive writing over here, is this your logo?
No, no, the
Okay.
logo is right below that in the Believe in Better Solutions.
Right here, spot on. So what I would do is I would create a tagline. I see over here immediately that the headline is a little long. What I would do is I'd scrap this. I'd put your logo. I'd sync in the brand colors with your logo. Put the logo in the corner here, and I would put in writing in white and big and bold exactly what you do and who you do it for in 5 to 8 words. That way, someone clicks on your profile. Jeff, exited, fitness, exited fitness founder. And implementing sales and ops in operators or in B2B businesses, right? Something that explains exactly what you do for, no fluff, straight to the point, very simply. So you have like your tagline, you have your writing, and you also have your little logo in the corner. And then over here, just as I said, you'll have founder at Believe in Better Solutions, line break, and then you'll kind of summarize this over here, what you do and who you do it for in another 5 to 8 words, very simply after that. That way, if someone clicks on Jeff's profile, they'll be blinded by the clarity that you give as to what you do and who you do it for. People want to know what's in it for them, right? And then over here, I see that you haven't tapped into something that could like make or break this biz, and I feel like this could be a massive opportunity. I'm sure you've accrued a decent amount of information and data as to how you could help others. And don't you think it'll be valuable if you get these high intent emails of people who are interested in downloading a free resource that you put out there? And I'm sure, even if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, you could put together something really, really fascinating, captivating, and valuable for people who fit your ICP in a simple resource, right? And you could put that in a featured section with a link to say something like Gumroad or something like a Google Forms, like sign up and get this sent to your inbox totally for free. And then you could set up an automation. Now, what that does is that it'll funnel people over to an email list that you have, and you'll nurture people through that email list, or you'll be able to run some sort of email campaign on your own. So what that does is that these people are high intent people who are interested in what you do. You'll be able to do your own research on them, and then you'll get their emails that you'll be able to nurture over time. But you own those emails now. On LinkedIn, you don't necessarily own them. You borrow them. You borrow
Do you
a lot.
drive it right from LinkedIn, or would you drive LinkedIn to the website and then pull those resources?
What I would do is I would drive it, because I don't think on LinkedIn, I think there is some place to put your form, but what I would do is I'd create like a simple landing page. It could literally be as simple as something on like Framer or a card, where it could take a couple seconds to set up, and then from there, mine's on Gumroad, so I literally it took me 5 minutes, and I'd be happy to help you out with that as well. And then lastly, again, due to the fact that we're in like the B2B service business, what I would do in the about section is, for me, I don't know if I'm taking the time to read this. That may just be that I'm a, I don't have such a high attention span, but I want it to be easy on my eyes. I want to know exactly who you do it for. I want to know what you do, and I want to know what makes you the guy to do it. And again, very, very simple, skimmable, and easy on the eyes. I want to know why I would likely be on your profile, what I would be looking for. I want to know what you do. I want to know how you do it. I want to know what are those steps that it takes. And I want to know who you currently work with to see if I'm perfectly fit. Because chances are, if I check all those boxes, I'm money and you're money. I'm reaching out, I'm downloading your free resource. You get my email, I reach out to you, boom, flywheel ecosystem, right? So there goes the profile optimization, the featured section, the about section. The content itself, I guess, is a different story, but I think that gives a little more clarity. And then over here, I would maybe add 2 or 3 lines as to what the goal is, right? I've been in business for 16 years, or I led my business from bootstrap all the way up to exit for 16 years. We had a $20 million exit. Here's what we've done, and here's what I'm doing now in my new role. Very, very simply, 2 to 3 lines. And then next, maybe I tweak this. People aren't necessarily making or breaking because of your skill section, but I think it's extremely valuable and very clear to have very concise skill section as to, again, 4, 5, 6, or even 7 slots that show exactly what you do for the people that you're doing it for. And yeah, I think that would pretty much sum up what I would do over here. And just a simple thing that I've noted that a lot of people are talking about as well. People are hesitant, especially with a service provider, to inquire about your services if it has an open to work badge. I know open to work kind of means like, I'm open to working, like, you should come and inquire. But what I found and what I've jammed about with other service providers is it's kind of like a red flag. So I would take that off. And yeah, so I think that would be my overview. My pillars for you would be focusing on 3 things in the pillars, right? And you kind of decide, based on posting 3 times a week, 4, 5, 6, where you want to include 2 posts on that one pillar, to kind of accomplish that many posts. But number 1 would be talking about you, Jeff. I'm sure you have so many stories, great stories, relevant to what you do. I'm sure. Too many. And chances are you just need that right person to extract those stories from you and kind of package it all in a really nice way. Right. So that's number 1, what I would say. So number 1 is focusing on building rapport to you and your stories. Number 2 is your business, right? Why are you the trusted person? Why is your business the reliable partner? What are you doing in your business? What are stories that you've done in this new consulting business that you could share with others? What are you looking forward to? What's in the pipeline, right? So get us closer to your business. Get us closer to you and your thought process, your philosophies, and your stories. Get us closer to your business, your case studies, right? And lastly, get us close to your industry, right? Tell us why your subject matter expertise. Let us in on those hot takes. What are you willing to say that others don't? What's an industry misconception that you stand very heavily by? If you could give a TED talk on one topic right now for the next 5 minutes, what would it be? And give that TED talk, right? So all those contribute. There's like 3 pillars, and then you can kind of branch those out into all different sub pillars. But just to sum it up, that's what I would say, and that's kind of like the blueprint that I would follow, Jeff, for your account.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I hate to run, but I'm glad you picked me first. Thank you so much.
Was a pleasure, and we'll chop it up on LinkedIn. I'll hit you there.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me get back to here, see if there's anyone else who bravely wants to get maybe wants to get roasted. Maybe we'll do one more, then we'll kind of chop it up. Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for joining. If no one else, I mean, look, oh yeah, Blake the man, what's going on?
Roast me, man. Lay it on.
All right, let me pull it up. In the meantime, Blake, tell us what you do, if you could share. Tell us what you do, tell us who you do it for. Give us the sauce. What are your goals in the next quarter? What do you want to accomplish? What do you do for people? What makes you the best at what you do?
The sauce is vodka, Paniella. Basically, I teach people who want to break into venture capital and full-time professionals about venture capital and pair them with industry experts and teach them how to be a venture analyst. So if they want to become a scout, if they want to break into the industry, or if they want to network and build relationships with venture professionals, I help facilitate that. I worked at a venture firm. I know the ins and outs of how to break down deals. And I have a decently strong network of friends in the industry, operators, VCs, and product leaders that can basically, and startup founders that can help get them into the ecosystem when they typically have no idea how to.
If you could sum that up in 5 to 8 words, what would you say?
Teach you how to speak investor.
Do you think that this is also cross applicable to startup founders who want to raise capital but don't know how to approach investors? That's something
Yeah,
that
it is. Yeah, it is.
sick. So I think that for ROI purposes, you know, because again, that's a great mission, but in terms of like tangibly justifying that for all the time you're going to spend on LinkedIn, you know, like what better is it than, you know, teaching a startup or teaching people in general how to speak investors' minds, whether they have a startup, whether they're starting a startup, whatever it may be. So again, over here, I really like your banner design starting from over here. You have big and bold what you do, build community, which is super important. You have a little testimonial over here, and your banner and your profile picture is spot on, stud. What I would do is I'd keep this exactly the way it is. My guy. Number 2 over here, I would admittedly condense this. You know, so maybe you're working kind of like freelance, but what I would do is or maybe you're working company to company. What I would do is I would create some sort of brand around this. This is more like overview, right? When I first started, I was just ghostwriting for people on LinkedIn, but my first ever client, who's a multi-figure exited founder who sold 2 companies for 8 figures within 18 months of each other. He says, Josh, you win by creating moat. There has to be some brand to it. Even if I was a one-man show, it was still under Notice Media, always and forever, right? So that way you could kind of put founder at, you know, company name, line break, and then 5 to maybe even 10 words about what you do aside from this over here, right? Because at the same time, there's a lot of wording. I feel like the words just jump at me in the face. And if I would just clarify this over here, although it is quite clear, it is a little long for me personally. So that is what I would include over there. Next, I see over here the about section. And while, you know, in some cases, especially for service providers, I don't like sharing about them in particular, because at the end of the day, if you're a service provider, people only care about what you do for them, right? But given your case that it's strongly revolving around you as a person and your story and how you kind of got into this, I would keep that notion of storytelling. I would, and I wouldn't neglect your story, but I would maybe condense it just a little bit, understanding that this is a little lengthy, just saying, all right, here's what I do for you, and here's why I'm the right guy to do it for you, right? Because of the fact that I literally spend every single waking hour of the day doing XYZ, and that's what I do for you. And my goal is to essentially help you break that barrier and speak the person who you want to get in front of's language. Boom. Very simply, it could literally be six sentences. Featured section. These are really great stories. This one in particular is one of my favorite posts. But what I would do is, again, given what you do, you could create a really kick-ass lead magnet, as I like to call it, a really kick-ass guide. What you do is heavily wrapped around the industry and like the tips and tidbits that you've accrued and that golden nuggets that you have in your mind. But again, your emails are high intent, high value emails. You know that the people who are interested in learning more about what you do are people who are in startups who are very high intent. They want to learn more about what you do. They need it. So what I would do is I would, again, dump that knowledge in your mind onto a document, put it over here, collect those people's emails and funnel them over to a newsletter or to an email list that you'll, you know, nurture over time. Literally just one over there, right? And maybe keep one of these posts. They kind of show that storytelling, because again, a lot of your business storytelling over here. So I would definitely scrap all these, maybe even keep one, but keep that featured section. Keep that free resource, because it's very valuable here. Next, the content's a different beast, but your content is spot on. It's very relevant to what you do. And your experiences, again, I really like here, just as you did it. We do 2 things, very straight to the point, very concise. And then for skills, I would condense this. You know,
Okay.
Community building, venture capital, startups. Those to me are the 3 things, and you'll be highly endorsed for those things because there are only 3 options and because it's very relevant to what you do and who you do it for. So I would say overall, banner design spot on. The headline could be a little condensed and could use for a little more clarity. The about section could be condensed a little more, but talk about why you're the right guy for doing what you do and specifying very clearly what you do and who you do it for. Featured section, I would add a free resource, maybe like lead magnet. You collect those emails. Experiences I would keep just the way it is because it kind of shows that experience and it's a cohesive storyline as to what you do right now. And again, I would create that company name that you market yourself under, even if it's just a one-person show. I would still create that moat and that brand. And lastly, I would just maybe condense those skill sections and further refine them to what you do and who you do it for. So all in all, that's what I would say on here.
Okay. Take my money.
I'll send you an invoice after the call.
You're the man. Good stuff. Thank you. I appreciate it. Very good feedback. Very relevant.
Sick. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say, like, this is super kick-ass. Really appreciate you coming on and doing it. I enjoy when somebody just knowledge dumps, but I feel like it's super cool to see a founder like in their element, like doing the work they do for other people. Like it's cool to see people break that down like that. So appreciate you sharing that. And yeah, man, I think based on the amount of texts I've got, I'm gonna have to get you back on the schedule here soon.
All right. Eric, you're the man. For all those who are still here, thank you so much for the time. As you could tell, I'm deeply and highly passionate about this as a whole. I've seen the benefits firsthand. That's why I do it. My goal is literally to do it for others. And it would, like, my ideal day is just meeting with every one of you guys individually and just jamming for an hour each about all the things I spoke about in greater depth. So feel free to hit me again. Josh Cons, just as you see here on Zoom. That's my name. That's where you could find me. I look forward to seeing all you guys on LinkedIn. And again, feel free to shoot me a message anytime. Shout out Eric for putting this together. You're awesome. Eric's the most kick-ass founder, top 3 kick-ass founders who I've ever met. I say this on and off camera. So shout out to him and look forward to speaking to all you guys individually.
Thanks, man. Hopefully you number one. No, man, I appreciate it. I'll shoot you this recording as well when we get it out. And then, yeah, if you had like that one pager, I think you mentioned, I'm happy to send that out Friday when we shoot the recording out as well.
Awesome. Super cool. In my feature section, you guys could find that all there. Quick plug. And thank you guys. I only say that to kick-ass founders, by the way. So just
awesome.
Otherwise,
thanks for doing this, man.
Not kick-ass founders. But anyways, thank you guys, and Eric, we'll be in touch. Thank you all.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Josh.